Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages, it is AussieVerse, your home of pop culture, comics, music, and everything that you could possibly think of in the world of nerdy stuff. I am OmniBeau, joined by a Big Mac, and today he takes his first steps into the AussieVerse. It is long overdue. A man that I have known for a few years now. He calls himself the Doctor. We call him Pedro. It is Pedro Pascoe, the father, the founder, the godfather of Bendi-Con. How are you, boys?
Excellent.
Good. How you doing?
Fan-freaking-tastic.
That's an intro. That's an intro.
Thank you very much. Before we go any further, let's quickly take a look at something that I want to share, which is...
E un ragazzino sembrava prima vista tanto per benino, si offre a far da guida per la città. Pedro, praticamente il meglio di Santa Fe. Pedro, fidati di me. Pedro, praticamente il meglio di Santa Fe. Pedro, fidati di me. Altro che ragazzino, che per benino è un ragazzo.
And that is courtesy of Cynation Comics, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get down to some plugging before we get to the loving. If you want to see more of AussieVerse, go to the link tree right there, where you can also go to Instagram and you can find our graphic designer, A51 Designs. As I said, go check out Cynation Comics, and we are proudly, humbly, lovingly sponsored by Comic Bookaroo. More from them in just a moment. But that is it for the plug-in. This show is all about Pedro and all about Bendi-Con. Pedro, sir, thank you for joining the AussieVerse tonight, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, Bo. It is it's interesting. I like it. Let's bring it on. It was all about Bendi-Con.
For those that might see a little bit of for those that might see a little bit of a lag, Pedro doesn't have the greatest internet, so we may have just the tiny bits of lag here and there, but that's how we roll when we are live. A Big Mac, please. Oh, dude, tell us, why have you joined this stream?
So, other than the fact that I'm contractually obliged, only kidding. Cynation Comics, we got to exhibit at Bendi-Con this year, courtesy of this man right here, who approached us and was like, "Hey, we've got a thing called Bendi-Con and it's amazing." And I was like, "Awesome!" And then we came, and it was more than just amazing. It was this was for real from the heart. I really enjoyed sort of the environment. It's so much more relaxing, but at the same time, there's more focus. And on a very serious note, I like that the toilets aren't like miles and miles away, because that really takes it out of you the whole day, freaking, walking so far off. But no, seriously, Bendi-Con, fantastic experience. And yeah, we'd love to be there again. So big ups to Bendi-Con.
Thank you. I'll make sure for next year the toilets are pushed even further away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say right next to the booths.
It's funny that Aaron says that, because I personally have never, embarrassingly enough, attended a Bendi-Con, because I don't drive and it is so far away. However, if I'm being brutally, completely honest, the feedback that I get from Bendi-Con is always so much more positive than any other con in Australia. So I don't know what you have done. I don't know what goes on there that is better than any other con. But Dr. Pedro, the first question that I present to you right now, sir, is, it's a bit of a double shot question, but are you aware of all the positive feedback that you get for the con? And 2, why do you think your con has such positive reactions and feedback as opposed to other cons?
All right. Thank you. Yes. As to why I get it, I'm not sure. Look, really, the focus for me has always been comics. My unofficial catch cry is putting the comic back in Comic-Con. Being a comic fan first and foremost. I'm not a trader. I'm a fan. I'm a purchaser. So I guess for me, the focus has always been on creating a convention that I, as a fan, would love to attend, and that's bringing people that I'll personally vet and choose at the different bigger conventions that I've gone to. Just making sure that they're a good fit for Bendi-Con. I do hear a lot of positive feedback from people that have been involved with Bendi-Con. I'm not so much aware of the positive feedbacks in the broader community, but I'm very glad to hear that it is very positive. And thank you for everyone that does think it's a positive thing. It's me writ large in an event, so it's very personal that I'm hearing good things about it, because it's a reflection of me as a fan. So thank you to everyone that's enjoyed it. It really is me sort of out there.
Excellent, fantastic. So what tell us the story of Bendi-Con, Pedro. What was it that takes, as you've just said, a simple fan like I am, like Aaron is, like many other people out there? What happened to take a fan and say, you know what, here is an area that doesn't get a con or a convention or anything like that? What is your story that you created that? Where did that come up from? How did that happen?
So you want the secret origin of Bendi-Con? Is that what you're asking, Bo?
Yes.
Exclusive for AussieVerse, yes.
Exclusive to AussieVerse, you're about to hear the secret origin of Bendi-Con. Because the thing is, Bendi-Con didn't start out as Bendi-Con. It started out as the Bendigo Record, Comic and Toy Fair. The first event was back in 2014. Now, what kicked this off was in 2013. I was talking to a work colleague at the time. I work at JB in Bendigo. And we were talking about the old days of the Camberwell record and comic fairs back in the 90s, which I would attend. I'd drive all the way from Bendigo to go down to these things, because really pre-internet, pre all of that, it was apart from, say, a couple of shops that sold secondhand back issues, and perhaps Minotaur, it was pretty much the place I'd have to go to find back issues myself for my own collection. And I mean, records as well. I've been a music lover for longer than I've been a comic lover. But the highlights for me back in the 90s was driving down to the Camberwell Record and Comic Fair. I was reminiscing about this to a mate of mine who knew the owner, and at the end of the discussion, he refurbished record players and things as well. So at the end of the discussion, he basically said, if you want to run a record and comic fair, I'll have a stall there. So it's like, yep. Well, now there's a good start. All right. I've got one person that wants the stall. All right. So let's just sacrifice 10 years of my free time to get this happening. Now, the other thing that happened at about the same time was, and I can't remember exactly why, this was the case, but I had a short box of Simpsons back issues that I'd got from someone, and they were doubles. And I was looking to sell them. Maybe I'd line this up with another work colleague who was wanting to buy some Simpsons comics for his kids. So it's like, okay, I've got some, for whatever reason, maybe my memories of this over 10 years ago now, 11 years ago or so now, maybe I'd even lined that. I said, okay, I've got some comics, bought the short box. After work, we went to the car park where we're all parked, flip the bonnet, flip the boot up, and my mate's going through. He's like, yep, nope, yep. He's wanting these ones, not wanting these ones. And the mutual friend is also filming this and putting up on Instagram saying this is just the coolest shit. So it's like, okay, yeah, look, selling comics is great. I didn't really have many, but there was interest there. And I had a mate on the record side of things saying that if I was to do a record and comic fair, he'd have a stall. So we're talking about mid to late-ish 2013. I thought, okay, I'm going to see how this goes. I found a location that was near where I lived at the time. It's called the Kangaroo Flat Leisure Centre. It's now long since gone, but it's a small venue. And look, long story short, the start of 2014, I crammed it in there. We had, I think, 20 or 24 tables I got. There was another work colleague who was a toy seller. He was a big Star Wars toy seller. So I already had about 3 or 4 friends that were ready to set up stalls in this. I remember going down to it was now Box Hill Record Fair, used to be Camberwell, moved across, going around spruiking this whole idea of a Bendigo record comic and toy fair to the comic room that was at the side. And there were a number of people that said, yeah, no, it's I'm not going to give it a go. And there are a number of sellers that said, yeah, look, I will give it a go. So that gave me confidence in doing this first event. And yeah, long story short, the Bendigo Record Comic and Toy Fair started in, I think it was March 2014, after about 6 months preparation and leading up to it. And the idea was to do this twice a year. So there was like a March and a September one. Yeah. So after the March one, I was essentially approached by a member of Bendigo Council who was there as a fan as well. And he basically said, look, we're prepared to sponsor a move from the Kangaroo Flat Leisure Centre out to out to the Bendigo Expo Centre and the showgrounds, just to help grow the event. So it went from this one-time event in a small place to a very large shed that I used a very small section of. So it was like mostly empty. But yeah, it grew from there, bigger and bigger. I kept like expanding out more into the shed. COVID hit, took a couple of years off. For what was then Bendi-Con. I'd split the event into 2. So Bendi-Con become the pop culture arm, which is just a bit too big. And I was starting to do that once a year. And then the Bendigo Record Fair become its own entity. And I managed to sneak one event or so, I think, every year during the COVID years, because there were little short windows in Victoria where we were allowed to do events again. And I'd like fair in that. So Bendi-Con was on hiatus for a couple of years. The record fair kept going. And after COVID sort of came and went and we were allowed to do events again, it was like an idea to reset, refresh, and find a new venue, which was the Red Energy Arena, which is Aaron, which is where you came for Bendi-Con a couple of weeks ago. And you saw sort of how it's a bit monstered out and why I have no free time for 3 months in the lead up to doing Bendi-Cons. That's the very truncated history, but yeah, the secret origin was it started with a mate who was interested in selling refurbished record players, and another mate who was interested in toys, and then interested in selling toys, and then a couple of mates who are interested in buying comics. It's like, this is everything that I'm interested in, and I'm just going to go for it. And had to learn very quickly about things like public liability insurance, and just things that have to make events happen, that won't screw me over if anything goes wrong. And nothing's gone wrong yet. But it's the old story. You never need anything like insurance until you do, and that's when you're sort of glad you do have it. So it was a very steep learning curve to start off with, but it's now 10 years. So 2014 to
Wow.
2024, 10 years. So 10 years since it started as the Bendigo Record, Comic and Toy Fair, and 10th anniversary of Bendi-Con, what's now Bendi-Con, and the Bendigo Record Fair.
Jeez,
there we go.
10 years.
I was really
10 years.
excited. Yeah, like, because I remember from the posters, it was the 10th year anniversary, and I was like, wow, it's a big deal. Like, it's really cool that we were able to kind of be there for that. And it made me wonder as well, because it'd be interesting to hear your perspective with there's a lot of creators, there's a lot of attendees, but as somebody who organizes cons, what's probably, what would you say is the most valuable lesson that you've kind of learned in the process of organizing a con?
Cover your ass. Really, because okay, it sounds not really romantic, but at the end of the day, if everything goes right, it's like, yeah, okay, I get a nice bit of spending money, and it's a good event, and I feel good after it. But if anything goes wrong, the hammer comes down on me. So I really, really have to cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure everything is in place before moving forward. And I think there was one Bendi-Con there a few years back where there was about a week to go and I still didn't have the public liability in place. And it's like, I'm going to have to cancel. I can't go ahead without public liability in place. Otherwise, anything that happens, I'll lose the house, I'll lose everything. Oh, there's me going back and forth. So it's really about getting everything in place so that I've reduced as much stress as I can on the day, so that then I'm worrying about the little things that go wrong on the day that I can fix, as opposed to stressing about the big things that might just punch me in the gut later down the track, so that then I can enjoy my own event. The other big thing is things can get out of hand quickly. The way I mean this is the reason I wanted to do what was the Bendigo Record, Comic and Toy Fair, which is now Bendi-Con and the Bendigo Record Fair, is I'm a fan of music, I'm a fan of comics, I'm a fan of all of this stuff, but I'm in Bendigo. There's not a lot happening in Bendigo with this kind of stuff, so I had to, as I said, in the 90s I'd be driving down to Camberwell, the Record and Comic Fair, to get my fix of back issues or whatever. I just wanted to bring all of that to my doorstep. It was as simple and selfish as that. I just wanted to travel less to get my fix of stuff. And in doing so, I'm now traveling to Melbourne more often to promote and develop Bendi-Con than I ever would have if I just was driving down and buying back issues or whatever. So in terms of reducing my trips to Melbourne for that, I've completely blown that out of the water. But I've created something a whole lot better at the end of the day. And I've brought essentially a community to Bendigo, but not only brought a community to Bendigo, but encouraged a community that was already here in Bendigo, because there's artists here in Bendigo, there's traders here in Bendigo that were also looking for that to be able to happen on their doorstep as well. So Logan French is a local Bendigo artist. He loves there. Lots of traders there that just don't have to travel as far. And there's a lot of interest sort of north of Bendigo, where traveling to Melbourne, is traveling to Bendigo and then to Melbourne. It's a lot further of a travel, but a commute from, say, Echuca to Bendigo is not as far. So Northern Victoria gets at least an opportunity to travel a bit less for a convention. So yeah, that makes me feel very good as well. But yeah, it's like I said, it's bringing a community here. It's also developing a community that's already here, and bringing the two together so that they're finding out stuff from each other. They're communicating, meeting people for the first time that they may have known about, but not actually met in the flesh. And it's an opportunity for them to big about a boom right here in Bendigo.
So when it started, compared to what it is now,
yep.
Where do you see Bendi-Con going, or where do you want it to go? What would you, if you've said it's been going for 10 years, so let me put it to you this way simply. Fast forward 10 years from now.
Yep.
What are your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations as to what Bendi-Con looks like in 10 years from now?
My God, I'll be in my mid-60s at that time. That's like retirement age, right? Look, right from the very first Bendigo Record Comic and Toy Fair, I was asked a similar question, and my answer at that stage was just to grow it into a pop culture convention, which I effectively have done. And I remember the interviewer getting back to me and said, "You've done it. Exactly what you said you wanted to do, you've done it already." So that was like, well, I kind of have. It's a small scale. It's a personal scale, but I kind of have. Now, for me, in terms of, say, fast forwarding 10 years, first and foremost, I'm a comic book fan. So I'd love to bring out creatives from overseas, particularly creatives that I've admired and been a fan of for a long, long time. It's a matter of I've had discussions leading up to the Bendi-Con just past that didn't quite come to fruition for this Bendi-Con, but may happen for the next Bendi-Con. Stay tuned. In terms of people that I want to bring from overseas that I've been fans of for 30, 40 years. And at the end of the day, my convention, I'm the fan. I'll bring out the people that I'm a big fan of. I'm conscious that there needs to be a fan base. It's not just me. But I'm fairly confident in the people that I'm interested in bringing out that will attract enough people from hopefully around Australia, and certainly within the community that actually want to be at the same convention as these people as well. So I'm looking at overseas creatives to bring them out and have just a bit of a list of people that I've bought out, say, in the next 10 years in Bendi-Con. That might just go back to the UK or the US going, so look, there's this convention in Bendigo. You don't even know where Bendigo. I didn't even know where Bendigo was. Hopefully that puts us a bit on the map as a town, as an event to people in the world, as I hope I've kind of done a little bit in Australia. That's kind of my plan. I don't necessarily need to be bigger. I do want to concentrate on people that I can bring out that bring quality with them as well. So fingers crossed that things I've had in the pipeline for this year actually pan out for next year.
That will be. Thank you for joining us.
Howdy. I must say, it's interesting that you said it doesn't necessarily have to be bigger, because I think obviously when something becomes popular, it'll grow. But I really like that there was a really nice personable level, between attendees, the stall holders, between shops, between guests. And here's a point as well to really make sure Beau comes next year is there were a number of people I ran into, attendees, and when I asked them, because I said, are you local? There were a couple of people who were from Bendigo, from Ballarat, and there were definitely a couple of people who were like, we're from Melbourne, and they came down. So it's possible. It brings in people from all over, and that was just something I observed my time there. So we will get Beau to the next one.
We will. Yes, if we have to strap him to your back to bring him, it will happen. And that's the thing, particularly with this year as well. The 2 weeks just gone with this Bendi-Con. I think it's the event where I've had the most competition on the same weekend as far as events go. So there was Animaga in Melbourne, there was Comic-Con in Canberra, both big cosplay draws. I believe there was an event I heard there was an event in Kyneton. I believe there was an event in Ballarat. There was another collectibles event in Bendigo on the same weekend as well. That was more sort of militaria collectibles rather than pop culture, but it's in the same larger group of collectibles and fans. So there's a lot of competition for the same weekend. And yes, there was a drop in attendance on the day from last year. But there was still an encouraging amount of people that did turn up to my event, as opposed to other events. So, and it's interesting that you say that there were people from Melbourne coming up as well, given everything that was happening in Melbourne on exactly the same weekend as well. So that's very heartening to hear. And it's no pressure at all to be able to, and I'm not trying to compete with any of these events. The reason I chose this weekend, or the weekend that I had Bendi-Con just gone, and the next weekend, the next year's weekend, which is essentially the same weekend next year, hopefully will become very clear next year if what I have planned for this year actually works for next year, because I'm hoping, I probably don't know if I should announce this because it's not a locked in thing yet, but I'm trying to work with another convention in another state to share a guest or two. So, yeah, it is cryptic. I mean, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. It's a year. Every year now just brings its own challenges. It's not like just setting up something and having it run. That doesn't happen anymore. And we can't pick the year either. That's the whole thing. There were conventions. I'm trying to attend all of the big conventions, at least in Melbourne, on at least a day, just to network and just to see what the general buzz is. And some conventions in Melbourne didn't go very well, and one convention in particular went really well. So it's not like we can all just say, oh, it's a cost of living crisis, no one's going to turn up, as a blanket statement. People are still turning up. They're being maybe a bit more fussy. The big thing for this year that wasn't an issue for last year and may not be an issue for next year, and this is sort of what I'm getting at with every year bringing its own challenges, is this year in particular, with events pop culture related, music festival related, is that people are putting off buying advance tickets till much later. Sometimes, like a week or a few days up to, and that makes it difficult, not so much for me because I'm a smaller event, but for the bigger events that do rely on a healthy influx of pre-sale tickets to gauge whether or not the event goes ahead. That's a big thing for them to say, well, okay, we've sold 50% or 70% less tickets paid, so we just can't do it based on that. So not so much of an issue of me, but and that may not even be an issue next year. So it might be something completely different. How do we respond to that? I don't know. We take it when it comes. We can't kind of predict it. We just have to identify it and try and mitigate it if it's an issue for us.
It's funny you say that, because every con that I go to, especially in the last 5 years since I've been with my partner Claudia,
yep,
we get in line, and we have pre-bought tickets. And we get in line for the people that have pre-bought tickets. And we look at the line of the people that haven't pre-bought tickets, and they're buying tickets on the day. And we sit there every year and go, like, we don't want to badmouth people. We don't want to point at people and go, and cause that negativity. But it is very hard to be in that line of pre-bought tickets and look at the people that haven't bought tickets and go, what are you doing? Like, how many years? It's like being in a Marvel movie and not staying till the end credit scene. How many years have to go by until you know better? Why would you go to a Marvel movie and not stay till the end credit scene? You know better by now. How many cons have to... Sorry, Aaron?
I was like, wait, there's end credit scenes?
How many cons have to go by now where you realize that if you don't pre-order your tickets, you are going to be standing in line for an hour or two to get into that con? Like, I just don't get that mentality. Of course, there would be a small percentage of people that legitimately forgot and they want to go to the con. So fair enough. But it bewilders me, the amount of people that just buy tickets on the day. Pre-order your tickets, people. Then you don't have to wait as long. And it's really true.
But I mean, it like I said, with this year, there's a lot more uncertainty. So I think that's I think that's been the issue this year, is that there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know whether there's no point potentially in booking a ticket a month in advance because we don't know if we can afford to be there. You know what I mean? So that's this year's dilemma, I think, for a lot of event organizers. Whereas, previously, so last year and the year before, Bo, you're absolutely correct. What are you doing, you idiots? You're seeing how quickly people that have pre-bought tickets are just going, woo, I'm in, and I've got the Secret Wars number 8, for $50, and you snooze, you lose. But this year's been a bit different. It's not so much about that. It's about can I confidently go? Can I confidently say that I'm going to this event a month out, 2 months out, 2 weeks out? I'm not sure. There's a lot of uncertainty out there that may be completely absent again next year. We don't know. It's a real thing, and it's affecting pop culture events. It's affecting music festivals, particularly live venues. There's a lot of uncertainty out there as to actually just getting along to an event. As an event organizer, albeit on a very small scale compared to a lot of the bigger events, I do really feel for these people, because I have a small idea of what goes into putting these events on, and having it come down to we didn't feel confident going ahead based on pre-sale tickets according to the environment. It's like, I feel really bad for them, because it's just something that's not so much been an issue recently, has very much been an issue this year, may not be an issue next year. That's the flavor this year. There's, I think, a lot of uncertainty as to whether we're able to go to events or not as punters, and have a good time. And part of the having a good time is you go along and you want to have the confidence to be able to buy the things that you want to buy. So it's not just a case of spending your 15 or your $50 or whatever going in for a day or a weekend, and you got a budget of $30. That's no fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So continuing on, as much as I don't want to focus on the negative, the last thing that I do want to ask you about the negative side is, was there any challenges along the way of creating this beautiful thing that you've created? And if so, how did you overcome those?
The challenges have been from the perspective of an organizer, the learning curve in terms of what actually goes on behind the scenes to get an event up and running, like public liability insurance, more recently volunteers insurance, all of these kind of bookkeeping things that set the legal and the financial foundations of events going on. I don't have any background in events. I didn't know anyone that had background in events. I just had to learn all this the hard way. I mean, there's harder ways I could have learned. I could have been sued, but I'm glad I've avoided that to date. Touch wood. But yeah, they're probably the challenges in terms of just the logistics of putting on even a small scale event like Bendi-Con for a single organizer. I've had a lot of help in the past with the cosplay side of things, because that's not really me. I've had a passionate cosplay coordinator do sort of that side of it, and then she had a different event on that clashed with my event this year, so she had to concentrate on that. So all of a sudden, okay, I've now got to put on the cosplay coordinator hat on top of all of the other hats that I'm wearing and do that as well. I think the other thing is always have a plan B, and probably a plan C and a plan D and a plan E, because something will go wrong. Something will stuff up in the lead up to it and on the day. So it's like, well, okay, if this doesn't happen the way I planned it, what do you do next? What's your next step? Don't just sort of hope that something will happen, because you're the person that makes it happen. And if you don't have the plan in place, it won't happen. So yeah, always have a plan B. And I think a big part of, I think the big part of it is as well, it's nice to be in control of an event, and shape it the way that I want to, but it's not me personally that people are coming to see. It's people like Aaron, it's people like Logan, it's people like the traders, the cosplayers, the artists, the fan groups that I'm bringing in. They're what people are paying to come and see. And if they need things to happen a particular way for them to come, I have to weigh that up against, can I allow that to happen? Can I afford for that not to happen? And more often than not, I really just have to acquiesce and say, yeah, okay, that's it. You want that? That's how it's going to happen, because without them on board, there's me up on a stage having put on a very expensive party for no one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really is listening to and by no means the vast majority of everyone that I've dealt with, past and present, that comes to Bendi-Con, they've been very grateful for being there. They've been very understanding. They've been, 99.9% of them have just been beautiful people. There have been other people that have had conditions that I've had to listen to and say, yeah, okay, I can do this, this, and this, and this, but I can't do that for reasons. And generally people are understanding about that. I just need to explain why I can't accommodate that. But at the end of the day, I really, it's kind of against my nature too, because I'm a bit sort of, you want to do what? This is my event. But it's not. It's everyone's event. I'm just bringing people together. And as I said, people are not coming and paying to see me. They're paying to come and see people like Aaron and their creative output as well. So It's there's a lot more listening involved when you're getting a lot of people in, and understanding, yeah, okay, they have to do this because, you know, that's what brings their project to life. So yeah, it's you think you're in control, but you're listening to a lot of people, and you go, okay, yes, yeah, that has to happen.
Yeah, good answer. Fair enough. This is the part of the show where we want to thank our members of the AussieVerse. We call them 4-lifers. And just remember that even though we really appreciate Azriel85, the Fourth Monkey, Ben Sullivan, and Simple Simon, your membership is not required, even though we do really, really appreciate it. The best way that you can support AussieVerse is by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing the videos. Now, I believe this gentleman wanted to say something.
Oh, it doesn't have to be a spotlight, but no, like now I'm completely zoning out now. You put the spotlight on me. No,
Get it together.
I can't. Okay, so the thing is, one of the reasons why I wanted to do that reel too, right, is like you said, Pedro, like everyone's coming for the guests and the cosplay, and yes, obviously there's so much effort that goes into that, but I really wanted to do that reel too because, you know, it's not just because your name's Pedro, but it's that I think it's important as well that this con wouldn't happen without you, and to at least have people see your face and know your name, and now they're not going to forget it because it's forever memeified. That's something, you know, I thought would be nice to do, and it was such a great time as well. And I'll take a moment. Also, a shout out to Tim McEwen, that your event attracted someone like Tim McEwen, who organized like a comic book catch up after, which I thought was just fantastic. Yep. It was really good. And now I want to probe you with a question, which is, maybe I want to try and elicit some clues. But if you could have 2 of any international guests at Bendi-Con, who would they be?
Money is no limit.
Money's yeah, moderate limit.
No, let's go with money is no limit, because if we're going to do a dream event. Oh, look, there's so many. Look, really, Bill Sienkiewicz comes to mind straight away. Alan Moore. If I could get those 2 guys,
Alan Moore,
on separate bills or in the same convention, throw in Garth Ennis, I could probably nearly retire, to be honest. But you know, there's too many. There's so many people out there I'd love to get. But you know, Bill Sienkiewicz. It was a Bill Sienkiewicz cover that got me collecting comics seriously when I was 14 years old. So it was, and I told myself I was going to have this handy to show you, but I don't. But of all things, of all covers and comics to get me hooked and build this collection behind me over 40 years, it was, get ready. What if Volume 1, Issue 45, what if the Hulk went berserk? All right. And if you need a description of the cover, it's basically black. And a Bill Sienkiewicz Hulk is reaching out from the blackness, grabbing the word Hulk and just breaking it in his fingers, and he's, you know, there's the Sienkiewicz whirly bit coming off, and it's kind of thing. And it's like, all right, I have to pick this up. I was in the newsage. I remember the day I saw this. It's like, that's the coolest cover I've ever seen. And I just started flicking through it. And you know, there are times when you read a comic, particularly when you're younger, and you just reread it and reread it, and the story is just burnt into your cerebral cortex. This comic did that for me. It's a what if story, and I'm going to spoil it for you. I'm going to tell you the whole story here in a nutshell. Basically, the story is, all right. The what if postulated was, we all know the origin of the Hulk. Basically, Bruce Banner grabs dumbass Rick and tries to and throws him into the trench to save his life, and he's about to jump in, and the gamma bomb goes off, blang, he's the Hulk. All right, the question is, what if he got there a bit late? So what happens is they both get irradiated by the gamma rays. So Bruce Banner still turns into the Hulk, but Rick Jones has this psychic connection with Bruce Banner and with the Hulk, which Thunderbolt General Ross finds out about. And so to get the Hulk back to try and destroy him, they're torturing Rick Jones so that the Hulk will respond because he's feeling Rick's pain. And tragically, they go a bit too far and they torture Rick Jones to death. And the Hulk goes, that's it. There's no more control. So he goes berserk. That's the whole thing. The Fantastic Four, the early Fantastic Four, are brought out. He kills half of them. All right, dead. The Avengers come out. He basically just crushes the Golden Iron Man in his suit. You know, the heart, the Tony Stark's heart stops. He kills someone else, and then Thor ends up killing him. And I'm just reading this like, you know, it's like all of these characters are dying in front of me, you know, including the Hulk at the end. It was the most cathartic thing I'd ever read. You know, seriously, I love this issue. And once I found out who did the artwork for the cover and found out he was still doing stuff, and then you know, Elektra come along and the Daredevil run and Daredevil Love and War, the graphic novel he did with Frank Miller, and all of the stuff that he did, it's just, I have to get this guy out to Bendi-Con. Please, Bill, if you're listening, come to Bendi-Con. I'll fly you out. I'll fly you back. I'd love to get Bill Sienkiewicz out. I'd love to get Alan Moore out. Garth Ennis as well. There's so many names, but yeah, I think probably those three. I know you asked for two, or did I ask for two? But three. They're probably the three big ones. I'd love to get for Bendi-Con. Stay tuned.
And for those that want to know more about Bendi-Con, you can go check out the Instagram at the bottom of the screen, but we'll do you one better than that, and we'll show you right here. Here we go. This is Bendi-Con's own personal Instagram page where you can see some weird dude right there, and you can keep scrolling and you can see the Bendi-Con logo right there. You can also see all the people that have joined the shows over the years. If you want to know more about Bendi-Con, go to Instagram, Bendi_Con, where you can find out all the information. Did I just see our mate Jamie Johnson? Yes, you did.
Yes.
Jamie Johnson yep. Right there. And plenty more people that have been on AussieVerse once upon a time. Go check out Bendi-Con. And before we, straight after a word from our sponsor, we're going to get into the last 10 minutes of the show where we ask Dr. Pedro some personal comic questions.
Comic Bookaroo, proud sponsors of AussieVerse for all your comic book needs. Graphic novels, hardcovers, omnibuses, single issues. Don't forget to pre-order every Sunday at Comic Bookaroo.
All right, so this wasn't rehearsed whatsoever. Aaron has no idea what I'm about to do here. This is live. This means this could be a total stuff-up. This could mean that Pedro never comes back onto AussieVerse. But what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be asking Pedro some very personal, hand-to-heart comic book questions. The first one that I'm going to ask Pedro, sir, is favorite superhero of all time?
Spider-Man.
Okay, favorite publisher of all time?
I have to go Marvel.
Okay, favorite run of all time?
Oh. There's too many, but my God, it's the Lee Kirby Fantastic Four run. Nothing beats it. It's the best single run of comics, bar none.
Okay, favorite collected edition of all time? E.g., if there was a fire in your house and you could only grab one book, what would it be?
I'd jump in the fire myself. I can't answer that. I'd burn with my collection. I can't do it.
That's a true collector's answer.
Aaron, your questions.
I did not prepare any. I'm gonna just write off bows. If you had to, there was a fire and you had to save a single issue, which one would it be?
Jump in the fire.
It's buried in here. If I was to try and get the issue, I would burn with my collection. I can't do it. One comic to save. I can't do it.
No.
If I could put my hand on it straight away, it would be it'd be my Fantastic Four issue 10 signed by Stan Lee.
Oof.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, that's a see. That one got a good response.
Yeah.
Okay. More questions. Favorite MCU film?
Look, I'd have to say the Last Avengers one where Tony Stark got buried. The thing is, not only did I cry the first time at his funeral, I rewatched it and I cried again. I've not cried since Spock. I've not cried since Spock died in the second Star Trek movie. So that's like what 30, 40 years of not crying in cinema. All right, and I did it twice for Endgame. All right, it was just such a beautiful way to wrap up 10 years of cinema. And just having everyone pay respect to this character that essentially wove it all together. It was done so beautifully. There we go. 2 times I've cried.
Good answer. Which actor best Batman? That makes.
Oh, sorry, who
Which is the best actor for Batman? Who has been?
I don't know that I've been 100% impressed with any of them. Controversial. Sorry.
Who would be your best Batman?
Who would you cast as Batman?
Me? No. Who could I don't know the. I don't know the actors. Who would make a good Batman? Okay. There's a thought. In terms of the excitement that in terms of the response from me from all of the Batman movies, the Michael Keaton Batman '89, I went and saw it in the cinemas about 6 times. So just on the strength of that, I'd say that's probably my favorite Batman.
Pedro, you have a question from the audience. If you could resurrect an artist and a writer from a dream run, who would you necro?
That I reckon could do the job today, or resurrect an artist and writer from a dream run. That's a good question. I am 100% unprepared for this one. I'm having to put my thinking cap on for it. It's a good question. Shaggy Mac, you've got me there. There's a lot. An artist and a writer from a dream run. I would dig up. Honestly, we're counting down. Honestly, they wouldn't work together again. And the magic is long gone from both of them. But Stan Lee and Steve Ditko doing just another Spider-Man limited series. Or even a Doctor Strange. Probably a Doctor Strange Lee Ditko run. The magic in the very literal sense that combination on that character, particularly early on when he was horror focused, rather than sort of more superhero focused, which you become a bit later on. But that whole Quest for Eternity run in Doctor Strange was just one of the big highlights of the 60s. And I love my Silver Age Marvel stuff. If I could get just one more bit of magic from that team, that'd be it.
Okay, favorite Spider-Man actor?
I reckon the current guy is Tom Holland. Yeah. I reckon. I was not big on Tobey Maguire, to be honest. I thought Garfield kind of looked the part. I kind of liked him better, but Tom Holland just he come across very much as a young, inexperienced, just throwing himself out there kind of Spider-Man, which really resonated with me as an older Spider-Man reader. So yeah.
Best Australian publication of this year, and why is it Gods Among Men?
Bias reporting. This is bias reporting. Well,
it totally is. That totally
I'll
is.
grab that.
Okay, yeah. Look, the Anna comic. It's the best thing ever.
Ah, there you go.
Oh.
There you go. That's a nice one. Okay. Best. Sorry, Aaron.
Is what superhero movie or any comic movie that hasn't been made that you'd like to see made?
Okay. First thing that jumped into my mind right then, and I recently read an article about it that affirmed my love for this character, is Rom Space Knight. All right.
Ooh.
Hold that thought. Here's why. Because basically, Rom Space Knight, particularly the earlier stuff, was some of the most science fiction, like proper science fiction stuff, that Marvel was writing at the time. You basically had essentially a Silver Surfer character, very good. A Silver Surfer character in an alien takeover of Earth. And the whole business of him using his analyzer to spot the dire wraiths and kill them where they stood, but he's the only one that can see them, and everyone else watching him thinking he's just murdering people, offhand, whereas actually saving everyone from this insidious alien takeover has enormous potential for a movie, for even a series. It might even work better as a TV series. Rom Space Knight would be my go. Excuse me.
I've got to answer this question myself because I'm just dying to answer it myself. I'm so sorry. But my favorite too that are over, that it's so over, like, it hasn't been done properly, and it's never been done properly. Why hasn't it been done in 2024? Is a proper good Phantom movie with the incredible origin of the Phantom, not this Billy Zane crap. I'm talking about the island and the origin and how he was raised and how it's the generation after generation. And second of all is MF and goddamn Astro Boy. Why do we not have a live action Astro Boy movie? Come on, it's 2024, people.
Netflix will screw it up.
Would he work as a live action though? I think it's Tezuka's animation and style that made Astro Boy and his heart and his philosophy. How would that translate? Keep it as an animated thing. I don't think it'd work as a live action.
Don't ruin my dreams, Pedro.
It's a great idea, but I don't think it'd work as a live action. As an animated feature, hell yeah, absolutely hell yeah.
I don't know what you're referring
yes,
to.
It is.
Who's Hasbro has the rights to what?
Would that be ROM still? I'm not sure.
Well, no, Marvel have the rights to ROM now, which is why the omnibus got printed.
Yes, they've just got there you go. Big about a boom. But yeah.
No, they don't. Unless he's talking about ROM. You know how they split up the rights sometimes with like comics and movies and blah 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 blah. Maybe Marvel only have the rights to print the comics.
Could do.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
Yep.
All right.
To do the
school.
Interesting. I'd still love to see probably a TV series based on ROM. It could be crazy Cold War, Reds under the bed, but they're dire wraiths, with a Silver Surfer-esque noble character that sacrificed everything for and he's the stranger in a strange land, which is a very popular trope from the 50s onwards, and was really the basis of a lot of paranoid science fiction, which essentially is what Rom is in the early days when he was still battling the dire wraith. So I'd love to see a television series based on it.
Yeah, good on you, man.
It's kind of Terminator-esque in that he's a giant, potentially scary looking character, particularly when he's just randomly blasting people. And the potential to turn that around slowly into making him a noble character has enormous potential and legs for at least a series. Make it a TV series. I want to see it. Rom Space Knight.
You guys have such like classic answers. I just want to see a Fable by Image Comics movie or TV show. That's all. Fables.
Yeah, have you not seen the show Once Upon a Time? Because they stole that idea.
Wow. Okay, I don't like it. Not gonna watch it.
Okay, as we wind it down now, I've got a couple more questions left. I don't know if Aaron has any more, so I'll ask one more and we'll leave it to Aaron, and then we'll go to my last one. And that is the second last question of the night, Pedro, is, if I may ask, why are you so nice? I met you at a couple of cons, and you are the one that put your hand on my shoulder and said, Bo, hey man, how are you? It's Pedro. I'd only ever known your name on the screen, which in this day and age is really freaking common. You don't know how to put a face to a name on Facebook and things like that. What turns a person like yourself into such a nice individual as opposed to a jaded MF?
Don't know me personally. Look, I guess I'm very conscious that I'm running an event that's small, that's not in a big city. So I feel like I'm having to do a lot more legwork to kind of catch up. So it's a matter of being on the boards and seeing who's who and who's doing what. And if I do recognize someone in the community, I will come up, put my hand on the shoulder, and say hi. And it's to hide the fact that I'm just an asshole at heart.
I bet you Aaron can relate to that. So going to Aaron.
I have just a completely unrelated question because I was curious about this. But what is your favorite thing to eat, hands down, any day of the week?
All right. That depends on what country I'm in. So, I mean, you followed my Japan posts when I was over there. So, if I'm in Australia, it's pizza, and you know what it is, and I'll make it official here. It's gyoza. So, the picture bow that I sent you, which has me eating the giant gyoza, discovered that when I was living over in Japan, and oh my God, I'm just on a gyoza pilgrimage for life, just trying to find different ways of making such a simple food.
What is this?
It's a
gyoza. It's a fried dumpling. So I'm thinking it may be originally Chinese, but the way the Japanese do gyoza is a little bit different. Welcome to Pedro's food channel. So basically, it's a thinner skin that you use. It's kind of like a dim sum, really. It's a thinner skin they use in Japan. They'll pan fry it to start off with to make the base nice and crispy. Then they pour in water and put the lid on it to steam the rest of it. So it comes out sort of part fried, part steamed, 100% flavor. And the Japanese love drawing inspiration from all over the world and making it their own as well. And what they've done with gyoza is just out of this world. And every time I go back, I find another thing they've done that I've never thought of. The time I went, this trip that I went to earlier this year, we went to the northern part of Japan, and we just on the way back to the station to get the overnight train back to Tokyo, we found this one gyoza place, and what they did was they had I think it was a beef gyoza. Normally it's pork or vegetables, but this one's a beef gyoza, and instead of just a soy sauce mix, they had soy sauce and raw egg yolk in the middle. Okay. And I wasn't sure about this, but and I'm a fussy eater, but if it's gyoza related, I'll give it a crack. And what my wife said to me just after I'd eaten that was, "I don't see that expression on your face in Australia when you eat food." It's just, it was extraordinary. That I've never had this burst of that taste in my mouth with gyoza at all. So I'm always finding something new. It's and I'm always posting it up always posting my gyoza shots and food shots. And the list of people that I'm pissing off with doing this, because I tag them, basically I'm jealous that they're not there, is growing and growing. And I've got people just look. I really should get friends of mine sponsoring me to go over to Japan and just eat gyoza. It's nearly at that stage. So if ever Bendi-Con, if ever I get sick of Bendi-Con, I think that's my next step. Is just getting sponsored to eat my way across Japan from north to south, from east to west, just getting sponsored eating gyoza, and increasing my salt intake ridiculously. But I'm prepared to make that sacrifice.
I have got to try this.
You do.
You have to try it. You have, look. All right, gyoza meet up in Melbourne. Serious.
Is that the name of the place?
No, that's what we're doing.
No, that's what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good plan.
Yeah, done. Okay,
all right, you
done.
tell me when and where, and I'll be there.
Right. Okay, let's figure it out.
My partner's saying I have.
Had gyoza.
Had
apparently.
gyoza?
Nah, he needs a revision course.
I need a revision, yeah. All right, Aaron, have you got anything else for our esteemed guest?
Our esteemed guests, because of the gyoza. No, that was
steamed. Get it?
I threw a curveball and started talking about food. So now AussieVerse does food, Bendi-Con will do food, and yeah, food. Woo! I'm happy.
All right. The last question I want to ask you for the night, Pedro, is if I was to turn around to you and say, "What is AussieVerse?" what would your answer be, sir?
AussieVerse for life.
For life! Yeah! That's right. He got it right. Thank you very much, Pedro.
I wrote it down. Oh, spoiler alert. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It's been a ball.
It has been, mate. Anytime you want to come back on the show, anytime you want to promote anything, anytime you just want to hang around with a bunch of nerds, you let me know. You are always welcome. You are now part of the AussieVerse extended family, and you are always, always welcome. This has been AussieVerse, and we are for life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will catch you next time. And don't forget to subscribe, as we are on our road for 1,000. We are getting there very, very soon. Thank you very much. Aaron has a special message to say before we go.
Geez, Bendi-Con and AussieVerse for life, baby!